Well, many political analysts are saying the Republicans are on the precipice of taking control of the U.S. Senate. The battle in Arkansas is just one of the key races which will determine which party wins the Senate. One of the major issues in Arkansas is Senator Mark Pryor's support for President Obama generally and Obamacare specifically. His GOP rival Tom Cotton has assailed Pryor on that point. For a preview of this and other key Senate races, our guest is Jessica Taylor. She's the campaign editor for The Hill and joins us from Washington, D.C. Hi, Jessica. It's good to see you.
Hi there. Good.
You know, we've been talking all week long as we lead up to the midterm elections about the importance of the black vote. Let's start with a general question there. Early voting has already started, particularly in Arkansas. Do you have any indications of turnout among African-American voters even during this early voting period?
Well, it's hard to tell which voters specifically have turned in their ballots and things too, but there have been reports on some states that have early Sunday voting. Specifically, African-American churches tend to encourage their voters to head straight to the polls. So there have been reports of good turnout efforts there in places like North Carolina. So I think that gives Democrats some sort of tepid hope. But, you know, overall, they need their base to turn out if they want to have a chance in a place like Arkansas, in a place like Louisiana and North Carolina. And so I think that's why you see the president going on African-American talk radio, talking to African-American media sort of in the closing days, trying to get out these voters that were so faithful for him in 2012. He needs them to deliver 2 years later. Yeah,
indeed. There's been an all-out push to get out the black folks. Black folk voted, I think, at a rate of 85% for Barack Obama in the last presidential election. However, the electorate has changed in some of these key states, particularly Arkansas, Georgia, and North Carolina. Talk a little bit about those shifts.
Well, this isn't Bill Clinton's Arkansas anymore. Like much of the South, this has shifted more toward Republicans as older voters have either shifted or maybe shifted their views, aren't there anymore. And these certainly lean more conservative. And so as we've seen this South shift as a whole, unfortunately for Democrats this cycle, their top races have been in states not only where President Obama lost twice, but are sort of in this area of the South that is where he is very unpopular.
So let's talk about some of these particular races, and let's start with Arkansas. It's Democrat candidate Mark Pryor versus Republican candidate Tom Cotton. What have you been seeing in that race?
This is one where I think it certainly feels like, and the polls have shown that Tom Cotton, he got off to a bit of a slow start, but seems to have pulled ahead slightly there. I don't think either party will be surprised on election night if Mark Pryor does lose. Now, we have seen a few polls where he has been very close within the margin of error. I think it will be a close one on election night. Democrats have invested millions into a ground game here. This isn't a state where President Obama contested in either 2008 or 2012. So they really had to build a ground operation from the ground up, literally. And so I think on next Tuesday it's going to be put to the test. But Republicans have an advantage here. They have always had an advantage here, and it's going to be tough, I think, for them to hold on here.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see what happens there. Let's move east through the South to North Carolina. That's Kay Hagan against Tom Tillis. What's going on there? That's been a hotly contested race.
If Democrats have a bright point on election night, it might be in North Carolina. Kay Hagan has run a very good campaign, but in the end, it may still not be enough. Tom Tillis, who is the state House Speaker there, the state legislature there is very unpopular. There have been protests there for well over a year now, these Moral Mondays, and I think it elicits a very strong response from these minority voters that they need to get, and base voters that may turn out just to vote against Tillis. We've seen him, though, poll slightly even or even ahead in some polls. Republicans think this is the one that is breaking at just the right time for them. This is actually one that closes early on election night. And so we could look to this to see, listen, if Republicans pick this up early in the night, I think there's going to be no question that they win the Senate majority.
All right, let's go all the way down to Louisiana. There's a three-way race going on here. Mary Landrieu, Bill Cassidy, the Republican, and then Bob Manis. Certainly a runoff is going to end up happening here.
We don't see any way that doesn't happen because this is an all-party primary system. It effectively functions as their primary. So with such a crowded field, it's almost impossible for one candidate, either the incumbent Mary Landrieu or the Republican-favored challenger, Congressman Bill Cassidy, to top 50%. They're expecting this to go to a December 6th runoff. And in that scenario, Republicans really would have more of an advantage. You see, Democrats tend to not turn out in these runoffs. Republicans will be focusing all of their resources and energy here, especially if control of the Senate comes down to Louisiana.
I'm all out of time. Just in 10 seconds or less, let's talk quickly about the Georgia Senate race.
This is another one that could go to runoff. It's really too close to call at this point. Democrats think they've peaked at exactly the right time. And if this goes to a runoff, it won't be decided until January.
All right, Jessica Taylor, thank you so much. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
And you're watching Arise America.